Come and visit the new Ajib Bank today. Ajib is the only Islamic bank in the Gambia. We offer Sharia compliant services, products and financing modes. Ajib have invested in ultra-modern technology in the state-of-the-art core Islamic banking software IMAL. Ajib ATMs are located in our branches at Banjul, New Joshuan, Brikama, Basse, QCell head office and Brisubi turntable. You can check your balance, withdraw cash, get your mini statement and much more. Ajib also provides 24/7 internet banking, which offers you the comfort of banking from your office or your homes. Come and visit the new Ajib Bank today and enjoy our services delivered by a team of banking professionals. For a limited time, you can get an Ajib ATM card absolutely free. For more information, contact us on 346-6666 or 327-7777. Ajib, your partnership bank.
Thank you for joining us on our QTV Business and Economy program. The Business and Economy program is intended to promote the ideals of a corporate Gambia identity with the objective of forging partnerships through dialogue between the public and the private sector, civil society organizations and the international community. In today's episode, we shall be discussing issues pertaining to transportation and trade facilitation. The Trans-Gambia Bridge has now been inaugurated, and a long-awaited infrastructural asset has now been realized. How do we leverage this national and trans-border asset to help us realize the economic and social dividend for which it was created? To optimally leverage the Trans-Gambia Bridge, it is imperative for government to pay attention to the issues and the challenges confronting transportation and trade facilitation. What are the issues that warrant the attention of government on matters pertaining to transportation and trade facilitation? And how can the private sector, working in concert with government, help to enhance the trade competitiveness of the Gambia? These, amongst others, viewers, would inform our discussion over the next 1 hour. To help us delve into the specifics, join me in welcoming my guest, Mr. Suleiman Juve, the proprietor of SM Juve Agency and the president of the Association of Customs Clearing and Forwarding Agents. Mr. Juve, a warm welcome to you to the Business and Economy program.
Thank you.
And thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
Mr. Juve, you were recently elected as the president of the Association of Customs Clearing and Forwarding Agents.
Yes.
Could you please give us an overview of the mandate and history of ACFA?
Well, thank you, Ben. ACFA is the Association of Customs Clearing and Forwarding Agents. The first name was Association of Clearing and Forwarding Agents, which was formed in 2001. Mm-hmm. At the time, we started doing clearing in an informal way. Most of the agents did not have offices, and looking at the importance of the job, we were encouraged by customs to make sure that we are well organized. So we came up, had a meeting at customs ground, and formed the association in 2001. It was registered that year through the Ministry of Justice, and we also became members of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce from that period. Mm-hmm. So we're 17 years this year, 17, 18 years. And the objective was to form a uniform body where all customs agents come together with the same objective, aims and objective, that is to assist customs in the clearance of goods under customs control. in 2010, the 2010 Act, which is currently used by GRA, spells out who is a clearing agent. In fact, we are part of GRA because the 2010 Act has registration of agents, license of agents, responsibilities of agents. So the aims and objective is to bring us together, to make sure also we work in the most professional manner and also within the customs procedures so that we will not have issues and business people sorry, can receive their goods or cargo, on time, and also dealing with people who know what they are doing. Because our importance, first and foremost, is to have a fair service. For example, if a goods owner goes to customs, you don't know where to start, what to pay, how much to pay. Now, it's also difficult for them to do all that together with their business. And customs wants somebody who is in between them, like an agent. We are trained by the Revenue Authority. We are conversant with customs law procedure, the Customs Act, so that we will be able to provide service to cargo owners, goods owners, to make sure they pay the dues that they're supposed to pay with customs, and also where customs will have reference and be able to communicate with goods owners in terms of records, and guarantee as well. So basically the aims and objectives is to make sure that we are together, we work together, we also help in this process. At the same time, make sure that there is compliance. Anybody who is not ready to be compliant, not ready to do the job accordingly, you are not part of us. And this has helped us to be recognized by GRA that we are also in the registration process. Anybody who is licensed as a customs agent in the Gambia goes through that process where you are first recommended by the association.
Okay. Yeah. During the 15th annual general meeting of ACFA, you indicated that capacity building for the membership of ACFA as one of your key preoccupations, and primarily for purposes of ensuring that the members of your association become more professional, more efficient and effective in service delivery. Why your preoccupation, if I may ask, with capacity building of the membership? And do you believe that perhaps this is one thing that is imperative to enhance the trade competitiveness of this economy as long as trade is concerned?
Yeah, thank you. As you know, the job we do requires knowledge, requires training, requires capacity, because custom procedures, custom laws, as well as the online declaration that we do requires training, requires a lot of capacity. We also go through a lot of procedures in terms of dealing with ports, dealing with shipping lines, the security, and also, keeping records. And this needs capacity, this needs training. So people who sometimes are registered into the system, they just have little knowledge or experience. Once they come to the system, they need to be trained. And as you know, GRA, they normally organize refresher trainings for us. But through the membership of the association at the Ministry of Trade, one of their committees called the EIF Phase 2 project, we are able to secure training for our members. Last year, we had training for 45 agents. This year also, after our AGM, another 50 agents were trained on data inputting and the CET. So I believe if you are well-equipped, any kind of job, when you are well-trained and you are disciplined, I believe you will be able to provide a very good service. So this is why I really want a good name for clearing agents this year. Of course, we're doing very well, but a lot of them needs capacity, needs to be well-trained. And this is why I outline it as priority number 1, although there are other things that we will be doing. But we are collaborating with the Ministry of Trade as well as GRA to make sure that we have trainings, all the time. Because if you look at agencies, the individual who has registered is the agent, but he has staffs. And if you don't train his staffs, it will be very difficult when he sends them to the field to be able to perform as he can do. And he may not have the time, he or she may not have the time to train the staffs, after his training. So this is why we want to provide training opportunities so that at least every time an agency is chosen, one or two staffs will attend, another time another will attend. So in the long run, all of them will be trained. And through our meetings also, we also do sensitization. We do questions and answers during our general meetings and our AGMs when we go to the deliberations. Issues of concern, things that they don't know in terms of procedure, they ask, and we enlighten them. So this is something that I really want to focus on, so that within the next 2-3 years, any customs agent you meet will be able to deal with you probably just like a customs officer, so that at least the businessman or the goods owner, from the first contact of the agent, will have the relevant information and will comply before the agent go into customs and being, seen as not complying. So we want to make sure that there is compliance, so that when we go to GRA or to customs to do our declaration and processes, everything goes smooth, because then you are well trained, and that is good for the goods owner. It's good for business. It's good for the country, because when there is an efficient service, especially in terms of customs clearance, you have investors coming in, you have companies also, you have service providers coming in for the first time, and we have the first of contact when it comes to importing their goods, to the port or to the airport. And if the service is good, it will really impress them that, oh, this is a very good place to do business. I'm well handled, and I think when I invest here, I'll be well taken care of. So that also will add to the ease of doing business in the Gambia, and will facilitate trade also, because it will really help investors. You go to some countries, to clear your goods, it's really difficult. It takes a long time. But we are happy that in the Gambia, within 48 hours, you can clear your goods. In fact, with customs, within the day, couple of hours, you're done with documentation, you can pay. But we have other challenges. But with time, I believe that we'll be able to improve on.
You spoke of the support and training you have received from EIF. For the benefit of the viewers, EIF is the Enhanced Integrated Framework. And you also spoke that, you mentioned that 45 people were trained under the EIF support scheme. And last year, I believe, the 50 people of the agents were trained on the Common External Tariff this year, which is the CET. What is the membership count of your association? I ask this question because I want to find out if all the people that claim to be customs agents are actually registered with your association, because you do have issues where I've had complaints from people saying that, when you go to clear your goods, you have some people who, yes, perhaps they are customs agents, but maybe they are not with your association. And some people even say they help you to clear their goods, but they are not transparent in terms of costs associated with this clearing and stuff. And some people usually are hesitant vis-a-vis engaging some of these people that you would find loitering around the ports building or the customs office. So what is your membership count, and what do you have to say about the latter that I just mentioned?
True. For us, what we do is we do the formal registration every year with GRA. Anybody who fits the criteria, there are a period where you have to be well trained. You have to receive an attestation from where you have been trained, and a recommendation, and then you start the process. So last year, we had 100 applicants, but 95 were approved by the Revenue Authority. And so what happens is that I think here, people or goods owners should be advised. When you have goods, vehicle, or cargo, I think you need to ask for a licensed agent. We are all in our offices, well organized with staff, keeping records. When you go to a licensed agent's office, you know that this is an established agency. You can work with him to clear your goods, and you have, you are assured of security. Now, but what happens, some people will just enter, come to GRA or to the port. You said, I have, I have a vehicle to clear or have a container. You can meet up with hawkers. And this happens not only in clearing. We have seen people impersonating as security officers. We have people impersonating as, municipal council officers, sometimes you hear all these press releases, especially our trade. So, you know, so this is something that we are trying to solve, but it's very difficult. What we can do is those who apply, and they are in customs system, they are part of the association, that they will comply. And you are rest assured of your security in terms of your money and whatever you're dealing with the individual. Because we have a constitution and we have a code of conduct. Any of our members who does anything wrong, you know, within the system or to a customer, you know, we have penalties. We have a disciplinary measure that we put on, and all of them, they are aware. But for hawkers, people have to be very careful. Some people will sit in their shops and say, oh, I want an agent. They give you somebody's number. He will just come, you give him papers and money. You cannot do anything like that. So the best thing is to make sure that you go to the service provider, you know his physical address, and deal with the individual. In that way, I think you are secured. Whatever happens, you know, you have a contact where you can go back to the individual and say what you have done is wrong. And I don't think our people who are well registered, and you know, will do anything, you know, of that nature, really. So that's the point I wanted to. Yeah.
Well, I know that some people have lamented the high costs associated with cargo clearing, because there are various costs that one have to, you know, pay for. But nonetheless, if you go for the cheap and you decide to deal with a hawker, actually the risks is even more, because what happens if that hawker disappears in thin air? No physical address, perhaps sometimes you don't even know their name, because I've heard of situations, you know, from my various dealings and inquiries where people have said that people have disappeared with their money, you know. So the risk is actually a whole lot more. I mean, if you deal with a hawker, than going and dealing with somebody who has a physical address and someone that you could always, you know where to find and, you know, engage in the event of any unfortunate circumstances. But the issue of transportation and trade facilitation being the topic of interest today, this should necessarily be of concern and relevance to your association. Could you share with us the concerns of the association as long as transportation and trade facilitation is concerned? Is there any? I mean, I know when you were giving us an overview of what your association does, and you have very well in the mix of trade and transport and trade facilitation, you mentioned that yes, the association is doing well, there's been improvements, but yes, there are challenges as well. Yeah. So when it comes to issues of transportation and trade facilitation, what are some of the concerns that the association has?
With regard to transport, I think we don't have adequate transport facilities in this country.
Meaning vehicles, you know,
vehicles that carry goods, that, you know, when it comes to the peak period, we do have some challenges in terms of having vehicles to carry containers or to bring in exports and so forth. Again, also, we have quite a number of them that are in a very poor state. That also is a big concern to us, because these goods cost a lot of money, and in terms of any accident or damages to the goods during transportation, it's a big problem. At times, you know, you have no choice, but you have to load them on those trucks, especially during peak periods. And you are concerned, you will only be happy when you find out that it has finally reached its destination. So, but this is for government to take care of. In terms of trade facilitation, there are quite a number of challenges. The clearance process has a lot of problems, although there have been mass improvements on the side of the Revenue Authority when it comes to the clearance of goods. When Asikuda Plus came, the port also have some improvements, though still there are some challenges in terms of space and equipment. But again, when you look at the clearance process, the bureaucracy is too much. And that also adds to the time spent in clearing goods, you know, especially at the port, that needs to be really looked into. So these are things that we really, and again, not only the bureaucracy, but the awareness of some of the stakeholders on the ground, for them to be able to know that they have to facilitate trade, because they need to be well trained by their institutions to be aware of the trade facilitation agreement the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of goods and persons, for them to be, because if you look at it, sometimes they just come to try to implement their work, whatever they're asked to do. So at times they're so little bit difficult, and then you will read that these people don't have that much knowledge or training with regards to trade facilitation. You can do your job, but still facilitate trade. So I think these are some of the challenges that we face.
Okay. I'm going to delve into specifics. Reason being that I'm going to go as far back as 2012, 2013, when I was at GIPA, and I know that when we were developing the national export strategy, you were instrumental in that process, and you were the focus person as long as transportation and trade facilitation was concerned. And when we undertook the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat within this service subsector, there were pertinent points that were revealed and brought to the attention of GIPA at the time that we should be cognizant of. And if the national export strategy was going to take off, you know, and get us to where we envisaged at the time that we wanted to be as a country, then these were key important points for us to, to look at. And I mean, you've mentioned the challenge when I asked you what are the challenges confronting trade, transportation and trade facilitation. You mentioned the cumbersome process, the procedures, the clearance procedures, and I think that was highlighted as a major challenge, at the time. You also mentioned the bit regarding, you know, for people to be aware, knowledgeable in terms of the benefits of facilitating trade and not necessarily policing trade, if I may use that term loosely. I know at the time as well there were prohibitive scanning costs of cargo and containers. So I don't know whether that has improved or whether it's still there. And also the numerous checkpoints, especially when it comes to the re-export trade, you know, at the time. But the point I want to ask is seemingly these challenges that perhaps date as far back as 2012, 2013, seemingly they're still in existence. Some of them may perhaps, maybe not, all of them. For the benefit of time, I don't want to go into it, but you've started to mention some of them, aware of the ISRT, the Interstate Rail Transit Protocols, you know, amongst others, you know, time restrictions, on transit, you know, trade truck movements, you know, these were all, trucks having to move, which, you know, could not move at the time, could only move, no movement after 7 p.m. I don't know whether that's still here or that has been done away with, you know, because I think perhaps it was from a national security point of view that, you know, that restriction was brought in. But seemingly, since 2012, some of these challenges still remain. What from your own reckoning is it that we need to do to help overcome this challenge? Why is it that we have not seen much improvement on some of these challenges over the years? Yeah,
first and foremost, I would say largely because the NES was not fully implemented. I was really disappointed with all the energy and time we have spent with the NES. When it was launched, I thought that, you know, implementation will take place because this was a very, very important, you know, national document that was really to transform the Gambia, you know, to an exporting country. Okay, nonetheless, if you look at these issues, government was aware, the former government and this government. So what I would really talk about, probably the improvements that we have. I think the time restrictions have been removed. Because now I understand transit trucks or re-export trucks can move at night. That one is not restricted. With regards to transit scanning, I think when the scanning started, the $80 or $2,000 at the time, depending on the rate of the dollar, we contested it. We really said this was on the high side, especially at that time, so many years ago, that it was going to be an added cost to businesses, even though the scanning was good, but they look at the price. But it was no-go area, as you know, the former regime, because I understood that the government had commissioned part of that money, and the contract was already signed, and they could not do anything about it. This was, something that was said by one of the officials of the Ministry of Finance at the time. And one of the challenges we face, not only at the scanning and so many things that have been implemented now, I don't want to go into specifics, is government don't engage stakeholders from the beginning. When it comes to trade policy and projects and services that affect trade, stakeholders need to be involved from the beginning. This is the intention of government. We want to do this and this. What is your take? And then when you do the contracts, after the contract, you need to sit with people, with the stakeholders. Or we have this company, these are the things, this is what they want to charge, you share with people. It is too high, reduce it or whatever. But you just sit one day, oh, this is coming up, this is the charge. You cannot do anything. So after that, we could not do anything until now. It's the same charge. That is, so now, depending on the rate of the dollar, is what you are paying. The scanning is all close to $4,000. So that is something that I don't think, it is left to government to decide. So, but our concern always is looking at not only trade facilitation, but the cost of doing business. And people do not understand any new levy, any tax, any cost, transportation, whatever, on goods. At the end of the day, the businessman will make his profit, his or her profit. Will calculate everything with any kind of delay and any other expenses, and then put his percentage. So the more you make sure that there are no high costs, especially on the side of government, the better for the ordinary Gambian. So basically, these are the things. There have been some improvement. But as I said, the clearance process is still cumbersome. The bureaucracy is too much. It needs to be cut down. There's a lot of minutes or hours spent at the gate of the port, doing a lot of documentation before you move out. So I think these are things that needs to be looked into.
The Gambia have had advantages in terms of trade competitiveness, especially when it came to, well, I can speak in the past because I don't think it's anymore there, but you could correct me if I'm wrong, especially when it came to the re-export trade. During the Jawara administration, and perhaps the early years of the Jammeh administration, the re-export trade was in a boom. And we dominated trade within the sub-region to the point where we have had Port Autonome, force making a call to the Gambia before they eventually landed in Dakar, Senegal. And also, we had fleet of Malians that would come to the Gambia from Guinea-Bissau, from even Sierra Leone, to buy goods through the Gambia, even transshipments, into their respective countries. But seemingly over the years, I don't know what the port would say now, because I know this was something that used to be of interest to me in terms of the number of TEUs, that they were landing, at the ports. I don't know whether that's still the same or it has gone up drastically or it keeps going up and coming down. But are these issues that you table at the level of ACFA, to discuss in consort with GPA, for example, in terms of how do we bring the glory days back, along with the Ministry of Trade as well, because they're quite instrumental in this, and finance, to help bring back the glory days and hopefully even get back our WAF towns, which we have lost ages ago. I always make the point that we have the River Gambia, which has remained unexploited, especially when the WAF towns disappeared, largely as a result of the decline in the granite trade. But it seems as if there is a need, for the entire government to sit and revisit issues pertaining to trade, and how do we help to bring back that competitiveness that we used to have, because I understand that Senegal has done much progress in terms of trying to take their export trade from us. I understand and know of the services that they accord to the Malians, vis-a-vis goods being shipped from Dakar all the way to Mali. But this is an advantage that they have created because we have not seized, but this is an advantage that we can still seize because we have a natural asset, you know, which is the River Gambia. And I always tell people, Kuntaur into Mali, you know, we're very close to Bamako. These are all resources that are sitting there, but which we have not exploited. So are these issues that you guys table, or do you believe that it's an issue that you cannot table because perhaps it would not be tabled at the right platform? But perhaps maybe you could kickstart and get government to look into it. I mean, what's your take on that?
You know, sadly enough, this country, we have good architects, but we don't have good builders. We're known to have, you know, good policies in place, but implementation, as you know, is a problem. It's very sad that all these countries, they copied from the Gambia what was our dream, what was our vision in terms of, you know, being a re-exporting country. The supermarket of West Africa, they used to say. I could remember when government talked about improving, there's a port master plan. But I don't know whether it is the political will or what happened. Senegal and this sub-region, during those periods, they didn't focus on port development, trade facilitation, re-export as such. But when they came and see how we were doing things, and they saw the need to improve on their port infrastructure, because they were not competitive, we are more competitive. Fast clearance time, goods coming from Gambia were much cheaper.
No presence of unions?
Yeah. There was a time, there was a Malian businessman who used to bring thousands of tons of sugar, you know, at the port, which will be, you know, discharged at the warehouse, loaded onto trucks to Mali. Goods were being loaded, textile, you know, you name it, electronics, everything was coming. Our people were going to China. You know, remember the days of the Diab or whatever family, you know, at Buckle Street, where containers of textile, as soon as they reach the store, off it goes. Everything is sold. Now, the Senegalese came here and other countries and look at what we were doing. And they went and, you know, did it right. That was the time they privatized the port of Dakar. And talking about transit, the Malian president came here. Specifically talk about transit. For Mali to transit its goods through the Gambia, where is a landlocked country. Because they know the efficiencies, they know the trade facilitation, they were how things were moving. Dakar port was very expensive at the time.
And so unions always demonstrate strikes.
They came here, a deal was struck, only for us to sit and wait. When he went back, Abdoulaye Wade went to Mali. You know, they followed up with a better deal, and look how many % of Mali's export is going to Mali, or is going to Senegal. They provided with bonded warehouses, gave them free time, gave them all the facility, signed MOUs. Why couldn't we do it? So this is the problem. I said that's why I said we have good architects, but we don't have good builders. We talk, but when it comes to implementation, it's difficult. Sometimes, you know, you contribute in forums, in workshops, they put up good ideas, and you sit down, nothing happens. It's really sad. This is why, these are things that we cannot take at the level of our association. Although when we have meetings with Ministry of Trade through the committees, Trade Facilitation Committee, some of these come out. And also with ports, we talk about trade facilitation and some of these issues. But to solve or to come back to try to develop such things, we need to have an economic summit, as you know. This is why I've been pushing for this, even at the level of the chamber. When we first met the president at Kairaba, we told him that we need to have an economic summit. That is where you will be able to have all the actors in the economy, not only the ports and GRA, from agriculture, poultry, everybody will come up with a presentation. Everybody, there will be question and answers. The last one we had in 2011, we had 3 cabinet ministers sitting for 2 days. It was so interactive. And from there, a cabinet paper was prepared. A committee was formed to, you know, formulate the priorities and all those things. A CP was done to the office of the president. That's where you had, that's why you had the corporate tax being reduced. It was out of the economic summit recommendations. From 35 now is up to 27, and so many things. But a lot of them are still not implemented. The tax reform and so many things. So I believe when we have an economic summit this time, with this new dispensation, of which I have seen political will in terms of trying to develop the country, I believe when all these issues come up, we'll be able to prepare a roadmap and try to do something. It's getting late because if you look at the development of Senegal, the ports they have built around us, port of Ziguinchor, Foundiougne, Kaolack, and, you know, coming to other things, we will reach there. I would not want to, you know, that's why they struggle for us to make sure that the Farafenni Bridge is built, you know. So we have to do our homework. They've been talking about the Kawur Bridge. Nothing is moving, nothing. And if we don't move fast from now, we may be entangled in an economic blockage, I can say. Economic blockage. Because 60% or 70% of goods coming to this country goes on transit. We don't consume the whole volume of what is imported.
You spoke of the Farafenni Bridge, the Trans-Gambia Bridge. This has now been inaugurated, and we're all upbeat about the 24-hour possibility of goods being moved from either end of both countries, you know, Senegal and Gambia. Interestingly, the entire bridge is in Gambia, but Senegal has more interest in this bridge, I would say, you know, than, I mean, Gambia, I mean, itself. So, and that in itself should be an eye-opener in terms of why that is. But out of curiosity, the possibilities that the Trans-Gambia Bridge now provides from a transportation and trade facilitation perspective, I would have thought that perhaps, you know, during the construction of the bridge, I don't know who's responsible for the creation and development of way bridges, but I would have thought that that would have been part and parcel of the developments, and it would have gone in tandem with the creation of the bridge. I mean, I know we ought to have a way bridge at either end of the bridge, and for obvious reasons. You know, we talk of this bridge will be utilized by trucks that will be moving tons of, I mean, cargo. So issues of axle weight and also security concerns in terms of what is moving from one end, like the southern Casamance border, you know, into, you know, I mean, the northern part of Senegal, or from that end to the other end, or even within Gambia itself, you know. Why is it that, I mean, we have not seen a way bridge being developed? Because I thought that this would have come in tandem with this, because the way bridge in itself also helps address issues of, you know, smuggling and illegal and, I mean, goods, and also in respect to national security concerns. I mean, is this something that perhaps have been discussed at the level of ACFA, or, I mean, have you had anything, I mean, in terms of this?
Well, no, but you know, I really thought when you're building such a bridge, which is not a bridge that is, for example, if Gambia was such a big country, that it would serve the interests of the country alone. But since it is, that's why they said Trans-Gambia. It's an ECOWAS project, as that is why it was funded by the African Development Bank. I really was thinking that when even the bridge was being built, the way bridge, the way bridge, as well as the toll would have been built together. Because looking at the bridge, the length of the bridge, and some of the trucks that travel within those areas, they are heavy trucks. And I believe they should be weighed and controlled in terms of how many heavy trucks will go at the same time. So if that is not in place, and I don't think, I mean, there would be any, you know, control in terms of what is the weight. How would you know the weight of the vehicles that are going on? So in essence, the bridge should have, weight bridge is very important on both sides to know, as you said, that this truck has loaded the limits with the axle. If not, you will be fined because it is done to our trucks when they go through Ziguinchor, you know, and then you offload some of these things. You can put it on another vehicle when the truck crosses. You can go put it on, and then you drive on the road. Again, the toll for the collection of revenue for the bridge. So these are two things that I thought would have gone, you know, should have been built along the construction of the bridge itself. But anyway, maybe it will be done later. But then the trucks are already, they may be using the bridge prior to those things being done.
The activities that you spoke on earlier, in terms of the mandate of your association, pretty much relates to trade promotion, because this is what you do. And I'm sure, given the relevance of the association and your association or agency, or agencies.
Sorry.
Could you share with us the mechanisms and strategies you employ at ACFA to realize the objectives of trade promotion outside of the bits that that we have discussed? For example, let me just say, let me just put it out there. Plainly. Do you, for example, we spoke of trade competitiveness and the relevance of trade competitiveness of this economy. We spoke about this issue of what it is that government is doing to try and enhance, the trade competitiveness of the economy. But you did mention that there are limits to which your agencies could be responsible for some of these things. I would want to see your, association, which comprise of various agencies, as a potential lobby group. And, with lobbies, you could pretty much lobby government, to push certain ideas or, activities that you think is not only beneficial to your association, but to the country as a whole. So, does your agency, your association, engage in any trade promotion lobbies, if you will?
Yeah, what we do is, apart from doing our work, which is the clearance of goods, as you know, we are a resource person. We are resource people in terms of trade information and so forth. This is why the Ministry of Trade have, appointed us in all their committees, trade committees. Any trade committee that is within the ministry we are part of, and we are also engaged by other agencies in terms of having our input whenever they have, workshops and so forth. But most of the time what we do, when, as I said at the beginning, when there are issues or new levies, taxes, and other things that are done by other stakeholders that could affect the competitiveness of our business, of our country, or it could add to doing business in the Gambia to make it more cumbersome, or it could cost the, increase the cost of, goods in the country, we raise the flag. Because that's what we can do as an association. We are not government. Say, hi, this agency is trying to implement this levy, or this company is trying to do this, or our stakeholders are trying to do this. Could cause delay, and delays cost. Or these charges, we believe that these charges are not really relevant, and we believe that it should not be, implemented in this country. For example, we have issues with shipping lines, where, letters were written to them, to customs, to ports, to the National Assembly, that far, where it was the business people who were complaining about certain charges that were introduced. And then we have to, ask their agents, ask concerned citizens, try to put it forward to government and other stakeholders to look at. Now it is left to government, who has the powers to bring them on board and make sure that this is looked into, what are the causes of all these new charges, and see if it could be reduced or abolished, or whatever is the cost, and see what to do. This is why the Ministry of Trade and Customs also invited them, and we are in the process of the ministry, we're talking to them to organize a forum where all the stakeholders, especially the port and the shipping line, will sit together and look at the cost of doing business in this country, because these are the two main focuses. The port is a very important institution. Shipping lines are also very important in bringing. So if there is high cost on the side where people accuse shipping lines, and they also talk about the port, I believe when we sit together, we'll be able to solve this problem. So that's lobbying. We also do things that will really help the competitiveness of the country, and also make sure that the cost of doing business, is not,
prohibitive.
As well as the cost of goods is not very high, because if not, most of the time they focus, the people bring out the goods at the port. we have our service fee. All the money that we collect goes to government, customs, goes to ports, to shipping lines, maritime levy. We collect money on behalf of the businessman and pay it out. So it is the fee that we are paid. So we don't own that money. So this is what we do, so that at least you know, we know the challenges. When we know the challenges, we put them forward. Either we lobby or we discuss it our level. Most of the time, we're lucky that we can solve some of these issues when it comes to procedures and things that will cause delay. But when it comes to cost, as I said, these are things that will be done and then implemented without our consent or the consent of other stakeholders. So
we cannot talk of transportation and trade facilitation without talking of, we cannot talk of trade or trade facilitation without talking about transportation. And in country, we have the Gambia Transport Union, or the National Transport Union. And primarily because of the influence that they wield. Earlier on, when we spoke and I inquired in terms of the challenges relating to transportation and trade facilitation, you did mention the poor state of the fleet of trucks that, you know, facilitate trade in country and also across borders as well. We have seen and heard of the lamenting of cargo trucks lining the streets of Banjul, especially, you know, towards the ports, all those streets, I mean, near the ports. And this has been an issue. I think even this has led to the latter days of 2016, you know, I think last quarter, where some associations were even disbanded, I mean, by government. And I read not too long ago that an area has now been earmarked, you know, for the trucks within Banjul, you know, where they could actually use, I mean, as their garage. I mean, is that done with, or is that issue still open?
I think that place is at Bond Road, when you just enter Bond Road on your left. And basically those are for trucks that load containers from the port, to my understanding. Maybe they have other trucks there, but what happens is that most of the time, the trucks that come to Banjul, there are different types of trucks. There are some that work at the port to load containers. They have a garage there. There are some that come from outside to load transit goods. They have a garage at Abuko. But I don't know what has caused the loitering now or the parking of vehicles in the streets, trucks waiting to load goods, because these are the only two things, either re-export or loading at the port. And re-export and transit, they are all at Abuko. So this is something that the municipal council probably or the authorities can look into.
But are they loitering on the streets of Banjul because of proximity? I mean, if a deal is struck, then it takes you 10 minutes or 5 minutes or less than that to drive into the ports and load what you load. So,
well, I can't say much on this unless the Transport Union answer that question. But I know there are designated garages, one at Abuko for transit and re-export goods. There's another one for containerized trucks at Bond Road.
We spoke of way bridges relating to the Trans-Gambia Bridge. But we do have one at Saro. And I know that early part of this week, the National Trade Union, National Transport Union rather, was engaged in some sort of dispute, if you will, with Afrique Passage, a Senegalese company that claimed to have had executive approval to operate in the Gambia. And the National Transport Union, the argument was centered in terms of exorbitant fees being levied by those administering the Way Bridge. I mean, are you aware of this, and do you think perhaps this could be a sticking point, I mean, going forward, or is it an issue that was ephemeral? You know, it just came and perhaps it has been resolved. I mean, did you, hear about this?
Yeah, of course. We're the ones who gave these transporters, you know, containers to load. We're aware since when it happened. But I don't want to go into the issue because the transport union, as well as the drivers who we work with inform us that they have a scheduled meeting with the stakeholders, the ministers of Ministry of Works, you know, and the NRA and maybe other stakeholders on the 15th of this month. So this is why I don't want to really.
So you don't want to preempt
anything with regards to that issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. But let me ask this question. I mean, we spoke of the competitiveness, the trade competitiveness of the country, and if you're saying that yes, you don't want to go into details regarding this issue at hand, then I think it is true that Afrique Passage is a foreign company, whether it's Senegalese or not Senegalese. And if that is the case, I want to ask the question, which perhaps I hope you can speak on, and that is having foreign companies man, operate, and administer our way bridges. Is this going to enhance the competitiveness, I mean our trade competitiveness as a country? Is this something that we should look at? Because if a foreign company is administering the way bridge at Denton Bridge, then how much for the same possibility to recall in terms of the Trans-Gambia Bridge, which we know, you know, by and large is within Gambia, but perhaps serves the interests of the entire ECOWAS. So if a foreign company is manning our way bridge at Denton Bridge, would that enhance the trade competitiveness of our economy? And is this something that government should really look into and try to get locals or at least companies that I mean that would administer such way bridges to be more Gambian owned than foreign owned, even if it's a partnership?
I think you have answered the question. You've answered the question.
No, well, no. I mean, I want to hear. I mean, when you say I've answered the question, I mean, what are you saying? That
no, you asked the question and you said, should it be that?
Well, should it be? I'm asking.
Should it be Gambian?
Yeah, should it be?
Should it?
Yes. Should it? I mean, it's still a question.
Agree. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
But it's all about also local content. Also involving Gambian businesses into business activities, projects, you know, services that they can provide. And I believe this is one area where Gambian companies can do, you know, if not 100% with the expertise, but they can get the contacts and co-manage or co-finance and run this thing. These are not difficult things. So as you rightly said, this is something that not only this one, as I said from the beginning, governments should really look at involving Gambian private sector in whatever service they want to be provided, especially in the area of trade. Whatever, because we have a lot of experienced people within as well as in the diaspora who have contacts. So if these things are published, you know, put in the open air, time is given, I believe Gambians will come forward and be ready to participate, where we will gain much more in terms of the economic activity. Because if you look at, if everything is foreign, government's share may not be that much. The rest is going. This is what happened to the scanning when they came. They were shipping the money, the dollars that were paid every day, daily basis. Now we're lucky that the GRA is part of it. This is a project that now GRA is really part of. We will benefit much more. But these things used to happen. And I believe something needs to be done. We really need to look at projects, services like Waybridge, like, you know, scannings, like anything that is of service to the Gambian people, that it is local content. Or if it is going to be foreign where you don't have the service locally, Gambians should participate so that, you know, we benefit. Not only in paying for the service, but the resources that will be left into the country.
Yeah, you mentioned scanning systems as an example, and the shipment of foreign exchange. But in those days, yes. But I think the fact also is that not only are foreign exchange being shipped out of the country, but the other thing to look at as well is what is the impact of those shipments on the value of your currency?
Very well.
And what is the impact of those shipments on inflation as well. And I think, you know, I mean, the point is, is spot on. We have a public-private partnership and public enterprise unit at the Ministry of Finance, I mean, which I have hosted on this program. But I think these are some of the things that they should be looking at and taking the lead to bring awareness to the Gambian public that these are opportunities that exist, and please come and see how you can create some of these things so that we can help solve foreign exchange, earnings problems. Because what happens is, we can even extend it to the issue of, the foreign exchange reserves, of this country, because those are the same reserves that people would buy and ultimately ship outside of the country. So these are all things that we need to look into as well. But Mr. Joof, thank you very much for coming on the program. It was a pleasure to have you on the program, and I'm sure this would not be the last that we would see of you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Well, viewers, thank you very much. This was all we had for you today in this discussion in terms of transportation and trade facilitation. You have heard Mr. Joof, and I would also want to call to the attention of the private sector, and also to the public-private partnership and public enterprise unit at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. Toll bridges, way bridges at the Trans-Gambia Bridge, opportunities for the private sector. Please help us and bring this to the attention of the private sector so that this could be leveraged and taken advantage of, so that the social and economic dividend that we expect from the Trans-Gambia Bridge would be realized internally by Gambians, and through that enhancing local content. Thank you very much.